one of the things that contributed to the success of music formats in the 60s. And by the way, there were really some radio stations that kind of specialized in, not just playing the pop hits, but playing whole sides of albums or whole albums. And they were kind of long format stations. And these were FM stations for the most part, because an FM station is higher quality sound, and it is used for the best kind of music broadcasting. And so that's what the waves look like. Don't ask me exactly how it happens, but FM radio is something that is comes along. It comes on strong in the 60s and from there on out. Well, folks, let's catch up now. We've gone over a lot of history, I know, on radio, starting with wireless telegraph and then wired, telegraphs, and then wireless radio, and then the development of commercial radio broadcasting and networks of CBS and NBC and others in the 30s, and radio being used as the first big mass communication, instantaneous communication medium by folks with political goals, as well as by folks with just commercial goals, trying to sell things. Radio then getting, I would say, kind of kicked in the teeth after World War II when television was invented. And then basically all those entertainment formats and all those national advertisers went over to television, where they could show the package and show people and show the product being used, and all of a sudden have an impression that was of a much higher quality than they could get in radio. So what saved radio was music, popular music, rock and roll music. It was the growth of driving on highways, driving cars, and the fact that cars had radios installed. It was the invention of the transistor radio, and radio really switched over to a large degree to to music formats. Always some talk radio too, but news radio stations, but a large amount of the formatting was music. So here we are. And we looked at some DJs right up to Howard Stern, who's now on Sirius. And you have to subscribe to get his content. And so here's where the industry is. I just pulled this. Over-the-air revenues steady at $17.57 billion, 2019. This is from Zenith Media, which is, as you can see, the research arm of Publicis. Publicis is one of the huge media conglomerates, along with WPP and Interpublic Group. Radio is a local medium, everybody, just like out of home, and for the most part, newspapers. Network radio only pulls in a little over $1 billion. And network radio today is talk radio for the most part, like Rush Limbaugh, be one of the biggest factors in network radio. You may have heard of him. So most of it is people buying radio in different cities. And they're projecting radio basically remain flat. And of course, we are seeing also their figures as broadcast scheduled radio. Online audio they track separately, and those are growing. So, 2019, looks like they meant billion there, 2.55 billion, right, in 2019, before rising to almost 3 billion in 2020. So it's the podcast, folks. And maybe the Spotify ads, things like that, are also growing. So when you buy radio, first you have to decide, am I going with a network to reach the audience of that speaker or for that programming, or am I going local? I'm going local. What markets do I need the extra GRPs or the frequency or whatever I'm going to get from radio? What markets do I need? who's my target, and that's going to help me choose my programming, the type of music, the type of language, because there's radio available in all kinds of languages, folks. I have a desired level of rating points I have to hit. I have maybe a cost per 1,000 impressions. I'm going to get into Dayparts. So all kinds of decisions to be made. And of course, I'm also going to visit SRDS. I'm going to go right to this slide here. There's no sound on this slide. This is the media planning platform owned by Kantar, which is owned by WPP. And we're going to look at media buyer solutions. And as you know, I can't really get very deep into here without paying some dough. But let's see if we can do something here. Let's see, media-specific databases. Let's see, we can at least look at least the top line of radio. Maybe see how much it costs, if nothing else. There's radio. $1,644 for one seat for 12 months. But, you know, there are lots of different stations by market with lots of different audiences. Why am I getting newspaper data? I clicked the right link, didn't I? Maybe I didn't. Sorry, folks. No, I didn't. Radio, 1,022. I did click the newspaper one. Sorry. Okay, radio. Planning data, U.S., AM and FM, commercial stations, including format, detail, demographics, and contact information. 1,300 plus total stations. Right? Format, description, audience profile. I mean, you get all this information for your planning. So once again, SRDS is a very, 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 very valuable tool, particularly for local media buys. Okay, now where did everything go here? Here we go. No, that's not what I want. This is what I want. Sorry, folks. Now, when we talk about buying by market, radio defines markets its own way. And radio markets are called MSAs, Metro Survey Area. These were first developed by a company called Arbitron. It's now pretty much all owned by Nielsen. This is the state of Texas, and the shaded areas are different MSAs. And you can see there's one for Austin, and it's several different counties. You see there's San Antonio. So, you know, it's not just the city metropolitan area. It covers more geography, these MSAs, because the radio stations, you know, the signals reach farther. But this is how you buy. This is how you bet what you base your GRPs on, and your impressions and your reach numbers and everything else are based on total target populations in these areas. Dayparts. Well, morning drive and afternoon drive are generally the most expensive, because that's when you have all these people who only listen in their cars. And then you've got this midday, evening, and overnight, and some stations don't even broadcast overnight. So obviously, based on the size of the audience and the quality of the audience, you're going to pay more or less for different day parts. I just want to underline that, you know, the ability to target by language. I think I did a Google for top 10 Hispanic radio stations. This is a while ago. It looks like it's just an old blog, but it just gives you the information. Lots of, for instance, to target Latinx customers, there are lots of Spanish stations, Spanish language and non-Spanish language, but playing kinds of music and talking about the topics and events and everything else for those communities. And you can even track through Arbitron and Nielsen the size of Hispanic populations, African American populations, Korean populations, different populations by market, to help you figure out your numbers, but think about different languages. This, in fact, is some information on Nielsen that does the ratings for radio, and that's how radio is measured. A little background: it was founded in the 20s. It was actually founded for radio in the late 30s. He recognized the need, or advertisers said, you know, what are we buying? How many people are listening? And so this guy put something together by 1942, actually asking people all over the country in different cities to have weekly diaries that they filled out in terms of what they listened to. And his first ratings were released December 1947 to measure the top 20 programs in 4 areas: total audience, average audience, cumulative audience, and homes per dollar spent for time and talent. Then in 1950, when he saw where the world was moving, he developed the same kind of service for television, these weekly diaries, and eventually set-top boxes and people meters, radio ratings. Arbitron, Nielsen collects data. You can see here by selecting a random sample of a population throughout the United States. They're in 294 MSAs. The paper diary service they also have the portable people meter, and electronic, which is an electronic audience measurement service every day. And we're going to talk about that in a little more detail. So you've got the 7-day numbers, where people who respond get a little bit of cash. It takes a while to get the data. People meter, you get the data the next day. And the people who buy the data are the radio networks. It's the media companies, because also ad agencies. But the media companies need to have data to be able to satisfy the ad agencies about the numbers. So major ratings are the CUM, number of unique listeners over a period, average quarter-hour share, time spent listening. And then they're able to break down, if they have large enough sample sizes, they can break down listenership by age, gender, race, ethnicity. Okay, so this is about the portable people meter, which is something that's come on in the last few years. It's a wearable device, like it's about the size of a cell phone. It gathers sub-audible codes that identify the source of a broadcast, such as a radio station. So the broadcast has certain codes in it, digital broadcast, that can be picked up. This is a little piece I found about a woman who was wearing a people meter. She goes, I don't know how they found me. She's in San Francisco. She's between jobs. She's 32. And they interviewed her about age, etc., and decided, we don't have too many people your age range, so we're hiring you. And she gets $45 a month. She gets $100 twice a year, and she has enters contests for gift cards. It's just a little extra, as she says, paying you based on points you earn for wearing the meter. So she wore the panel all the time, if you can imagine. Took it out to dinner. They want you to wear it all day, from the time you wake up till you go to bed, and to wear it on your person. You can't just leave it in your purse. When you pick up on it, they'll call you the next day or night and say you weren't wearing it for 15 minutes yesterday. Sometimes there's a problem with accuracy, because some stations that the person hadn't been listening to seem to have been picked up. And so that's how these people meters work. So we're going to stop now for a minute and